Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Teach Traffic. I am your host, Alana Wexler, and I'm really excited to have Scott Desgrosseilliers on today's episode. He is the founder of a very awesome software tool called Wicked Reports. And if you've never heard of Wicked Reports, you most likely after today's episode will definitely want to check it out. They're a software which allows you to, well, I guess provides clarity. And forgive me, Scott, if I'm not giving the full picture.
I don't know yet.
Provides clarity for attribution. So if you're running, let's say, paid traffic or developing other traffic sources, it will provide a lens as to the attribution of where your leads and sales are coming from all your different traffic sources. In the world of many touch points and many traffic sources, it's the endless quest, I find, of business owners to work out which traffic sources are ultimately contributing to their sales. And in the multi-touch point world, Wicked Reports definitely provides that lens of clarity. Did I give it a well-rounded introduction on it? Or?
You did well. I always enjoy hearing how people describe it because, back when we first cooked this up, I had to even explain what it was always interesting. And people didn't even know the word attribution. Now it's like at least it's a category, but before it wasn't. So we had to explain even what the hell we did and then why people should care.
Yes.
And you should, the endless quest. I'm 20,000 hours in on this. So that's how I at least feel like I'm comfortable talking about what to do, because it's been like consumed 7 years of my life. So don't beat yourself up if it's not, it takes a while to get the hang of it in some cases.
Yeah. And, I speak to business owners all the time who are running their own traffic or getting somebody else to run their traffic for them. And by far and away, the thing that I hear people say is, I've spent X amount of dollars on traffic and I've got no idea where my sales are coming from. And it's a common comment made by people. So Wicked Reports is obviously a tool which helps solve that exact problem. But that is not why I have invited you on today's show. You are here to talk all about the Facebook's issue that is coming with the Apple iOS 14 update, the software updates. So we're going to cover why is this important? What is this all about? And importantly, what you need to do about it. And Scott, I recently read an article by yours and I thought, this is the man to talk about it, which is why I have asked you to come on and share your wisdom. It's uncharted territory for many of us advertisers, and we're all still very much learning and discovering the true impact. So Scott, why don't we kick off by explaining firstly, why is this really important and why do advertisers need to be aware of this?
Sure. So Apple has decided that due to a certain technology that Facebook, Snap, Pinterest, Google, and others are using, that the only way they're going to be able to continue to use that particular tech is if they alert the users. And so in a nutshell, what's going on is that in the background, these Facebook, I'm going to say Facebook, but it's not just them. It's a lot of other companies are using something called Apple IDFA, which stands for ID for Advertisers. They take your phone number and they send it to Apple, and then Apple returns this list of everything that they know about you, or not everything, but places you visited, all kinds of information about you from your phone. So Apple was the one that was collecting and sharing out that point. And so Facebook, Google, Snap, Pinterest, others, those are like the big four, though, out of probably your audience, or at least people that I talk to. They download that data and use it for all sorts of things. In some cases, it's to determine what conversions have happened. In some cases, it's to determine audiences, such as if they're trying to target a certain interest, and it could be because they looked up on phone numbers and discovered that you appear to have an interest for some reason. They put you in that pool of targeting. Those are the major high level, that point of using your phone number. Apple has now decided that if anyone's doing that in their app on the phone, they have to first, there's going to be a prompt that's going to say, do you want Facebook, pin, whoever, to be able to track your activity across websites. And then it says, do not allow, or then it says allow. And everything we're going to talk about comes down to when this software update hits. Some of the implications have already hit advertiser accounts, more related to ad buying and attribution that we'll talk about. But the big impact that's coming is going to be when people are on their phones and say, I don't want to be tracked, what's going to happen? And so that in a nutshell is like what's hitting the phones.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the impact that this is going to have on advertisers is multifaceted from what I understand. Yes. Do you want to maybe expand on what aspects it's going to impact advertisers?
Sure. So all the impacts are currently going to affect only phone, Apple, iPhone, iOS 14.4.5. It doesn't matter. Point is, sooner or later, every Apple iPhone at first is where the impact's going to happen. These people are going to have the prompt and they can be allowed to opt out of tracking. Okay. So if you're targeting desktop right now, this has no impact on you for the desktop traffic, but it has all the impact on the phone traffic. Now it's likely somewhat to spread elsewhere. But what's first going to happen is that because people click, I don't want to be tracked. Mm-hmm. Well, I should back up and say one thing. So Facebook's mobile traffic is pretty significant. It's about, according to, you can just Google, it says it's 80%.
I'd say it's more.
Yeah. And then how much of that is, how much of that is Apple? Apple's the dominant phone. So probably half your traffic, let's say. I mean, maybe a little bit less, but the point is, I mean, if it's 40%, it's a lot of your traffic. So when you say, I don't want to be tracked, then for various reasons, Facebook's not able to use your data in virtually anything. It means Facebook can't show you as a conversion in the ad manager. That's the biggest one, no matter how you try to do it. I've even, we're a Facebook conversion marketing partner. So this isn't just me conjecturing, but also my natural gifts. I don't have a lot of them, but what I do have, I can read technical documents and map data together. That's why we have a marketing attribution business. Is what I love to do, is piece together this stuff. So when I first started in October, I was like, man, there's no way this is going to happen. And it really has happened. Most of it, and the rest of it's happening this month, it looks like. So because you say, I don't want to be tracked, then you're not going to show up in the ads manager, even if you convert.
Okay.
Your data. What's that?
I was just going to say, so as an advertiser, when you log into your ads manager account and you see I've spent $200 and I've made $400, now you may see that you've spent $200, but it's the ads manager is only going to tell you made 100, even though in actual fact you have made 400.
Yes, definitely. There's definitely going to be understatement of how much you're making, assuming you have iPhone traffic, which everyone does. So.
Yes. So it doesn't mean you're missing out on that revenue. You just can't attribute that revenue to the Facebook ads, or even within your Facebook ads, which particular interest group and which particular ad generated that revenue.
Yeah. So, I mean, that part already stinks. But the second thing that's already happened. Well, so the attribution windows that determined your attribution windows are how you determine credit for a particular click.
Yep.
So Facebook used to say, I'm going to take a click and look forward 28 days to see if you made a sale. And in some cases, I'm going to look forward that far from your from a scroll by on the phone and say, hey, did you end up buying from this advertiser that we showed you the ad X amount of days ago? And that's now shrunk to 7 days click and 1 day view. So that already is hitting ad accounts, and that's a huge impact because you're losing 3/4 of your time window to get credit. So that's a big one right there. That I don't know if you've seen it in any accounts yet, but it's already been landing in accounts, or people have been already like testing out the differences. So that one could be somewhat traumatic.
Okay, so that's the second thing that's impacting advertisers.
Yes.
Is there a third?
I'd say there's two more.
Okay.
The third one is that events manager, you need to go in and prioritize. You are allowed 8 events, of which a purchase somehow can take up 4 of them due to value-based bidding ideas and concepts. But a lot of people that are using a bunch of custom events, which some advertisers get really into those, you're only allowed 8 events total, and you have to prioritize them. And until you prioritize them, sale is obviously the top one, and then lead is, abandoned cart might be second, lead might be your third most important, maybe view content's fourth. I don't know. That's just a logical one that might happen. Well, you're only reporting 1 event per user per time period. So this one is actually quite impactful, I think, because if you run an ad to cold traffic, you click and get a lead, then your retargeting campaign kicks in and it's amazing, and it gets someone to abandon the cart, and then abandoned cart kicks in and closes them. And if that magically all happens in one day, or in whatever time, they haven't said what the time frame is, but let's just say it's all in the same day, you're only going to see the sale reported that's not even related to the opt-outs. That's just 1 sale per user.
Yes.
1 event per user. So that one stinks because you wouldn't have got the sale without the other 2 campaigns. And this, I don't know if that's a common scenario, right? Cold traffic campaign, abandoned cart campaign, and then buy my stuff. And that one, no one's reported or really fully digested that one, but they've stated it. I've had it verified, and they've presented it as well at their public webinars. So this isn't secret info. It just might have been glossed over with all the other big ones. That could be a really big one. Maybe it won't be. It sounds massive to me. It sounds like a massive impact.
I want to expand on that in a second, but let's just go. I need to close the loop on what the 4th one is, and then let's go back to each of these in a bit more depth.
The 4th one is that they're using the ID lookup for ad sets. And they have mentioned that the audience network in particular is going to suffer definite reduced return on ad spend due to the changes. So anyone using audience network, which most people probably are, and they aren't getting into specifics, but a simple example, let's just say that, I like a particular music group. I like Aerosmith, for example, or Guns N' Roses. I love Guns N' Roses. My 50th birthday's coming up this fall, and my goal is to be watching them in Australia if the borders are open. They might not be, but we'll see.
I don't like your chances, but anyway.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen by then. But so if an advertiser's on there and they're saying, hey, I want to target people that like Guns N' Roses. So what are the ways they could do that? Well, I was on the Guns N' Roses Facebook page and I like them. I'm 49. I don't even have Facebook on my phone. I have it on desktop. I don't have a phone. So I'm not going around liking everything. I've got 3 kids and a business. I don't have time to like stuff.
Yeah. You barely got time to eat.
Like them personally. I don't even have time to do that. But to go on and then tell people, hey, I like them, it just doesn't happen.
Too much. Asking too much of you.
So then they might have also inferred it because they looked up on my phone number and they saw that I went to the website. They're no longer going to be able to do that. Or they might know that they might be able to target me as Guns N' Roses because Guns N' Roses has uploaded their email list of which I'm on. So that one will still work, but if I've opted out of tracking, they can't use my phone number to say, hey, this guy likes Guns N' Roses. And if I haven't liked the Facebook page, they're just not going to know. Now, they're likely to develop other ways to figure that out, but they've just been warning people ad sets are going to have a lot shrunken potential reach, and the audience network's really going to be affected. And so that's one simple example. I mean, you got to figure Facebook data scientists will figure stuff out and, eventually, but it's going to be a little crazy when it first hits. So those are the big 4, I would say.
Okay. On that last one that you were just mentioning, in the scenario where you might have been on the Guns N' Roses email list, but you might have opted out. What's that situation where, you've opted out with your phone number, but they've got your email?
So they could still upload and target me and still probably get me to convert because I'm very into Guns N' Roses. but if I converted on my iOS14 and I said, don't track me, then even though I may have conversion API set up through Shopify or WooCommerce or pushing up lead conversions, Wicked Reports has the ability to do that coming up shortly. No matter what I tell Facebook, they're not allowed to report on it because I opted out of iOS 14 and I converted on the phone, meaning they use the phone number lookup to figure out that's how they generally do it. So, I mean,
interesting. Alrighty, so let's expand on this a little bit more. So the first one that you said is obviously from a reporting point of view, less is going to be reported. As I said in the scenario, someone will log into their ads manager and their return on ad spend will not look nearly as attractive as it once was. And therefore advertisers might question the effectiveness of their Facebook ads and therefore whether they're going to continue to run or how can they scale. What are some of the ways that people can combat this, or is there no way that people can combat this?
Well, there is a way. So, I mean, you need an independent measurement solution that is able to track. And so the way that you're able to still measure and track results is if you aren't using Apple IDFA. You're not using the phone number lookup, and you're not spying on people on other websites, or you're not using the data for anything other to track your own performance. So, I mean, this isn't going to be an infomercial for Wicked Reports. I just want to help people, but we check all those boxes. Yes. So this isn't the worst news for us.
Okay.
But there's other solutions out there as well, or you could hack up your own homegrown one, but you need to rely on, particularly with Facebook, there's a lot of incredible lifetime value you can get from the leads you get. Even as an e-com store, you can still pull leads down there, have them opt in for a coupon or a buy one, get one, free shipping, whatever, and then redirect them to your offer page. And then you still got that data point that, hey, they came from Facebook, and then track this lifetime value, because the people, there's going to be chaos because everyone's going to be used to looking at their ad manager and see low numbers, particularly in cold traffic that takes a little time to convert, is going to be, you're taking more than a week to convert leads, which isn't terrible if it happens normally.
Pretty normal.
And it's cold traffic and it's iPhone. It's going to look horrible inside of Facebook unless they can lobby away all these changes before they hit. But that Facebook actually is still going to be just as good as it was prior. It's just going to be tough to prove it. And so if you can prove it and continue spending, you're going to be able to fish out those ad sets and crush all the great leads that turn into customers that your competitors that are just looking at ad manager and say, oh, this isn't working anymore, that are just leaving to you. So it's a big opportunity if you can get in there and take advantage of it.
What about a situation where in your ads you use trackable links with UTM sources, and then really you're leaning not so much on the ads manager for your return on ad spend calculations, but rather Google Analytics, because Google Analytics, I'm assuming, is unaffected by this. And therefore you can then calculate your return on ad spend that way. So in your Facebook ads, you put, the Google trackable links, the source medium, and then in your traffic sources report in analytics, you can then see how much revenue was produced from those specific ads. Would that get around this issue?
Yes, that should get around this issue. So there are a couple of things on that approach that will work. If you have clean UTMs, and you got your cross domain tracking, or you only hit one domain, so you don't lose the scent to Google Analytics, that can tell you some conversion data, particularly if it's last click. Now, when there's leads that take time to buy, Google Analytics it's much more advanced implementation to try to sort that out. That was kind of our initial use case was, we had an e-commerce store where his leads were actually taking 40 days to buy on average. So he wasn't spending on ads because they never are ROI positive. And they were able to show him that he made 10 to 1. It just took 3 months, which he's since shortened that, but he was unhappy but happy. He's like, okay, I'm making money. This is making me sad. It's taking too long. But now this advertiser is now spending a couple $100,000 a month on paid because he's making it back on the back end when he looks 60, 90 days out. That took him, a few years. You don't just go from a couple grand to a couple $100,000 overnight, but it works. It just takes work.
Yeah. Okay. What about the second point that you said that how advertisers are going to be affected by this, with sort of the reduction in the targeting? Do you want to is there any way around how advertisers can cope with that, or it's just something that we've got to live with now?
So it puts a big emphasis on first party data, which is emails that you're able to collect or data you're able to collect to help you target.
Yeah.
So the shift there that would be helpful is if your cold traffic offers, instead of just counting on the pixel to get seasoned and to be able to target everyone through the pixel, you're going to have to do more email collection near the top of the funnel, particularly as your price point rises or your consideration cycle is longer, then that's going to be paramount.
Yeah.
For example, we have e-commerce brands, a lot of them, they're selling $100 to $500 things online. Well, you don't normally see a brand, someone selling something for a couple $100, click and buy first impression. You got to warm up. Then it's a couple $100. You want to see, is it cheaper? How good's the quality? Google reviews, all that stuff that goes on before you're going to shell out a few $100s. Or subscription e-commerce box companies, or subscriptions, or people selling courses. We might get excited about the course, but am I going to really recur at $99 a month with someone I just heard of? No, I'm going to take a little time.
Yeah.
So the better you can do at capturing that email address up in the cold, then you're going to be able to still retarget them reasonably well, just as well, using a whole uploaded ad set, syncing from your email list and doing it that way. It's going to work. That's always worked, but that's going to become more important because of the decreased effectiveness of the ad sets without that.
Yeah. I also imagine that the real micro interest targeting is going to be less effective now, as people are possibly opting out, and the level of granularity of interest data that Facebook has on people is probably decreasing.
Yeah, I think at first the impacts, they still get that whole backlog of 7 years of data, 10 years of data on you. But, as this continues, like for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the end of this year, how much is that 6 months loss, 8 months loss of data going to be affecting things then?
Once a Gun Roses fan, always a Gun Roses fan.
Always. They can target me. I want more ads from them. No issues there. I will opt in for them specifically.
Yeah, exactly. What about a situation? I know many people use the strategy of top of funnel promoting a video, creating a video engagement audience to then retarget people. If somebody has opted out from being tracked, then that video engagement audience has meant that they're not part of that audience. Is that true?
Yeah, that strategy is probably most at risk. You need to try to capture the user off that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, YouTube, it's a little easier where all paid advertising, you got to know what you're doing. But at least with YouTube, they have the True View action. You can try to capture the lead with an overlay.
Yes.
That you're going to almost see the video have to be more important. You have to email to get this offer. I have to get your email. You might need to entice them more to convert there. Yeah, because in that exact scenario, that's really common. Yeah, the video in Facebook, retarget the people that watch X%.
Correct.
That's where, if they're not allowed to be tracked, my understanding is they're not going to, that's going to be painful right there.
Well, it's time to change strategy, I would imagine.
Beg them at the video.
Exactly.
It's always going to be bribing for info, bribing for their email.
What about generally retargeting audience as well? I would imagine they're going to reduce in size as well if you don't capture their email, that is.
Yeah, it will reduce in size. Well, anytime an audience is derived due to phone number lookup, it's gone. And any audience that the phone number lookup, because the people will opt out, so they won't be in that audience. So they can't track that their phone number indicated that they're part of that audience. Mm-hmm. So Facebook will likely develop other ways to figure that out. But as it stands right now, it's a pretty big part of how they do it. Because they spent $1 billion fighting it in PR. And that's what got it, for whatever reason, it keeps getting delayed and delayed. It was supposed to go live like last fall. So they've managed to, fight it for this long, but I think it's hitting.
I've definitely seen, which I want to talk about now, is the 8 event restrictions or conversion events. I've definitely seen that in some of our ad accounts. So that's definitely hit advertisers. Do you want to maybe talk about those 8 events and also the importance of the priority, how the priority works?
So you can set any priority of events you want, but the importance of it is, in a given time frame, which they haven't debated, it hasn't been revealed how long that time frame is. only the highest, most priority event is the label they use,
Mhm.
is the one reported in the ad manager. So
That's
let's
the
just use
only
two
one.
events. Yeah, let's just use two events to make it easy. Became a lead, bought something. Well, okay, so obviously sale is more important than lead, but that means that the same person that became a lead and then turned to sale is only going to be reported as a sale, even though maybe they only bought because they became a lead and then that other campaign made them buy. So that one's really frustrating that the only clarity they've had on it is that it's 8 events max. So if you have a big custom event, complicated solution, you're probably already know about this and are scrambling to, figure out a new strategy.
So
I don't know.
can I just quiz you a little bit more on that?
Mm-hmm.
So in this 2 event scenario that you're talking about, of the lead and then the sale, if you're running 2 separate campaigns, one is optimizing for a lead and the second campaign is optimizing for the sale, be it retargeting, only one, if one person does both, for example, becomes the lead and then purchases a sale, only one will be reported because the priority is set for the sale. Is that right?
That's what's been stated. Yeah.
So
And
what
then
is the
that's going to be
point then?
puzzling. Imagine if it was you had 20 leads and then they all bought. And then in theory, and they're all using iOS 14 and they all opted out.
Oh,
Then you would see 0 leads and 0 sales in that case. But then in the other event is they haven't opted out, but they're still limiting the events per user. You see 0 leads and 20 sales. We're like, well, they only got to the sale campaign because of the lead campaign. How can this be? That's
well,
how it reads right now. And it's been mind blowing to me that I had it triple confirmed through various sources that I have at Facebook as from our relationship. So that one's puzzle. I mean, I haven't seen it impact someone yet. So I've seen the events configured. So that's the one that I'm least thrilled to talk about because I'm like, how can it be this way? That makes no sense. But
what about a situation with this same example of 20 leads and no sales, but the sale is the priority event? Does that mean it shows 0 even though they got 20 leads?
No. So then you'd see the 20 leads.
Okay, then you see the 20 leads. Okay, it's only in the event of the duplicate conversion, only one is credited.
It's a dupe conversion, and what has not been clear is how long that user conversion time window is. I mean, so that if it's the same day though, then it's only going to show the highest.
Okay.
How long it has to go to show the different events isn't been made clear to me. So
it just seems like such a silly rule.
That one makes no sense. So there's
No.
something around the bits that they're allowed to store. It got shrunk and so they had to figure out how many. They didn't have this unlimited storage of data. Basically, they had to shrink how many things were available to store, and so they had to pick and choose where they were going to cut some painful data points. I don't know how that ties into this. I just know that was the rationale behind it. It was bit storage.
I have to completely agree with you on that one. This one makes 0 sense whatsoever.
It does.
What about a situation with this whole 8 event business where people are running, let's say, multiple lead magnets? And would you suggest, and let's say they're, that's what they're optimizing for, would you recommend them as a way to conserve their very precious 8 conversion events that they've been allocated by creating, let's say, one thank you page that's a commonality amongst multiple lead magnets? Do you kind of understand my question?
That sounds interesting way to handle that. I don't know if it'll work. It's too
sneaky.
It's too new of an area to know. I wouldn't feel comfortable unless I saw that it worked. It looks like well, let's see. So then you opt in for 2 different magnets and it still fires the one lead. And then, but it's going to say, hey, wait a minute. I had a click from campaign A yesterday and campaign B today. I don't know what will happen. I don't know.
Have I thrown you a curveball?
Yeah. So with the event stuff, it's interesting because it's so out there what they're doing. It almost just doesn't seem like,
I know.
How can it be? But I had it confirmed and I read it 17 times. I've been on the webinars. I've queried all the various sources we have as marketing partners.
And
people
why
that
8? Why have they got, like, would they just pluck that number from the air? Like, it's so
well, no,
arbitrary.
it's like 8 is one. If you're storing things at the bit and byte level, 8 is one.
Of course, ones and zeros.
Eight rounds is like one slot of storage in memory. So
Yeah.
one slot for events. You got.
It's very binary, isn't it?
It was a binary decision. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
right.
one, and then the attribution windows are a big thing too, because people are used to seeing a month's worth. You're earning a click, and then within a month they buy. Facebook getting credit, and that shrunk down to a week. That might be a reasonably big impact just on its own. That's already hitting accounts now. So that one's tough.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you've delivered us all this great news.
I'm such an optimistic person normally, but this
Yeah.
stinks too, because it's like not like granted, maybe they shouldn't, there's some tracking, you should be more transparent about it or something, but for them not to be able to report honest conversions that were earned, that one stinks. That part is a little unfair, a little extreme in my opinion.
Do you think they might change the rules with this?
Yes. They've already delayed things a couple times, managed to have it delayed a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So possibly, or maybe there'd be some correction back. Is Apple coming out with their own ad network? Is that the game plan here? And they want to
Or is Facebook coming out with their own phone? Is that their new game plan?
Yeah, double. Yeah. So it's getting, it's a real like food fight almost between two tech titans. It's very interesting.
I'm curious though, also, like, we're sort of banging on here all about the impact in Facebook ad land. What about on the Google Ads side of things? Is that going to be as impacted? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
So Google's been super quiet and they haven't got a lot of press on this. Like neither is Snap or Pin. I guess because they a lot less spend there. Still a lot of spend on those platforms, but a lot less than Facebook or Google. It's anyone using IDFA is impacted. So Google's been super hush hush working on the impact, but not said anything about what it's going to do to them. So, they have a lot more signals. Facebook has the app, right? That's what they have. They have an app. People go on it. Maybe they go on desktop. That's it. But Google owns all their other properties. They have what you're doing in your Gmails, what you're watching on YouTube, what you're searching for, what you're doing on your Pixel. So they have massive signal already.
Chrome
so
browser.
They are using it, or they were using it. And are they still going to? They might just stop using it is the rumor, because they already have so much else signal. They don't necessarily have to rely on it.
Interesting. So they've got other data points that they can use and leverage. They've got the Pixel phone, obviously. They've got the Chrome browser and Gmail and Google Apps for Business and Google Analytics. Google Analytics.
Data. So they already have, more than enough data.
So they're not
They have
worried.
a lot of people-based tracking on Google now. You can target people on interests, on, affinities, intent.
Yeah.
People visited your competitors' websites. People search for your competitors. All those reasons you can show them a YouTube video. It's come a long way. It's pretty powerful now.
I'm curious.
Search was super. Go ahead.
No. Sorry, you were going to say?
I would say search has always been super powerful, but now you can just target people and take like your best social ad and put it on there and target people based on, rather than, dealing with bidding on keywords. You can just say, I want to create this audience that's done these things, show them the ad. So it's a lot more intuitive to a Facebook marketer to target on Google now, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The targeting on Google side of things with their what's called their behavioral targeting, which is really what is the same on Facebook, has improved massively over the last 18 months. One of my favorite audience types is the in-market audiences, which I do talk about in my training material, as well as I'm a big fan of actually their custom intent audiences. I don't know if you've ever experimented with them.
Yeah. So typing in either competitor keywords or whatever. Yeah. No. It's so easy to set up, and it generally converts. So
if you give Google enough data, I do find you need at least 30 sometimes even up to 50 keywords or competitors or a mix or something. Like you don't want to create one with just 1 or 2 keywords. Then Google doesn't have enough direction of where they're going to go. But with enough data and the right creative and etc., then it can work extremely well.
Yep.
I'm curious though if retargeting is going to be affected on the Google side of things. Do you know much about that?
I don't. And that's one where, so they have all those other signals contributing to their retargeting. So
Okay.
how much of it did they depend on looking up your phone number is what
Mm.
we're going to find out. It's the cliffhanger. There's been no guidance on it, and it's hard to read the tea leaves as to, they were using it, how much of a signal it was. We're about to find out, when
Yes.
we see the retargeting stats say in May, and we're like, they're either going to be untouched or worse, and then that's how we'll know, unfortunately.
At the time of this recording, which is in March 2020, when is this rollout expected to really hit advertisers? Or is it
So it was supposed to have already hit a couple of times, and it's been very last minute pushback. Who knows what was going on behind the scenes of that?
Yeah.
So the latest guidance was, it was just the next. It's supposed to be the very next iPhone push,
Right.
whatever their cycle is. You know what? I wonder. Well, we could just Google and find out when does 14.4 hit, because it was supposed to hit, been delayed. Let's see, Apple. See if they have one for me. No, my computer doesn't want to work. Sorry. I'm wicked curious now. 14.5 release date. Doesn't say. We'll see what 14.4 is. I believe it's 14.4 that has it. No, it's 14.4. So it's supposed to be 14.4, and that was released January 26th. And so they pulled it. And so this one has not, sometime in the spring.
Okay.
After March 20th. Springtime. So that's it. It's probably dependent on furious negotiations.
Yes.
Who knows? Please,
Okay.
here's $1 billion. Just delay it another 2 months.
Yeah, I can imagine it would have massive impact, especially on Facebook's revenue dollars coming in. As if an advertiser starts to question the effectiveness of their ads, if they start pulling their ad campaigns, it's going to have a massive impact. What are some of the steps that advertisers should be taking now to prepare for this March 26th rollout? Obviously, the 8 conversion events and setting those priority is one obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's an
mentioned
obvious one.
That's an obvious one. You mentioned also really optimizing your top of funnel campaigns to capture email rather than perhaps building engagement audiences, like is a very well-known strategy, or even building a retargeting audience with the view of retargeting them later, and therefore less reliance on capturing that email.
Yep.
What are some other things that advertisers can do to prepare?
Well, one simple thing that you have to do is verify your domain with Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. You can just Google verify my domain with Facebook, and it's a simple process, but they're having everyone do that.
Yep.
So you'll want to think about how once you have the leads captured in your CRM, what type of engagement and ad sets you want to create around those, because there could be some things that you just haven't had to do that might be valuable, such as when someone clicks on this type of email, they're interested in that topic. So I'm going to show this ad. I used Plus This for a long time, and it would sync my ad sets with my CRM based on activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's maybe there's a couple other tools that do that, or CRMs that do that quite well. But when you can do that, that can help increase retargeting success. And that's not the same as relying on the pixel, but it's something that will work. It just takes work and might be a little less exciting than some of the pixel things.
Yeah.
But that's a key one. I think the other thing is, related to what we do with marketing attribution, it's starting to get a good grip on your customer lifetime value by lead source, by campaign, by targeting. because you'll want to know where you are finding your highest value customers so you can continue to buy into those areas at the top of the funnel when you know you're going to have really limited visibility. And there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, some easier and more effective than others. But at the end of the day, if you can say, hey, when I target these type of people on Facebook or this type of ad group and criteria in Google, and those leads are worth 4 to 1 after a set amount of time, then I know I can buy there because I'm making it 3-4 fold after a couple months. That's going to be a huge edge because people aren't going to have that visibility or maybe have any way to know about it unless they do the work to learn what that value is.
Yeah, right. Just going back a sec where you said the one thing that advertisers must do is to verify their domain. Just for the purpose of our listeners, essentially, that is going into your business manager on Facebook, and I believe it's in the domain section or security that you'll see to verify your domain, you have to add your domain to the business manager, and it involves installing once you sort of go through those, I think it's only 2 steps, it spits out some code, in which case you have to put that code in the header tag on your website. So it's much like even really installing the Pixel or installing Google Analytics.
I think I verified mine with a text. I don't
Did
know
you
if that's available everywhere, but they texted me some code that I typed in, which was
really?
quite quicker because I saw the header thing and I was like, oh, I don't feel like doing that right now. And there was like some choose another option. I was like, I don't feel like doing that header thing. I just wasn't in the mood for it, even though that's fast and simple. So that is probably the way most, and I able to do it through text. This was probably 2 months ago.
Yeah, because
2-3 months
I
ago.
went through this process 2 months ago because I was recording a training video inside Teach Traffic, but I didn't see the text option.
There
Maybe
was another, I need another way or something. It was this little quiet link.
yeah, right. I
It was
should
like mining for easier ways to do it. Maybe it only showed it to me because it's US number. I don't know.
yeah, maybe it's just reserved for special US advertisers
Yes.
as opposed to us,
VIP advertiser hotline I had.
as opposed to us poor Australians on the other side of the world, our little island. Cool. Alrighty. So people will verify their domain and obviously try and sync up their contacts, as you said. Is there anything else that people, should be doing to prepare now before this hits, or that's pretty much it? It's just the new normal.
If you do have some great engagement ad sets that you're relying on the Pixel to do all of the heavy lifting, you probably want to start trying to mine those now while you still Facebook, they're still so effective,
And when you say
really
mine those,
spending more, but also trying to harvest the emails, if nothing else.
Yep.
I mean, obviously everyone wants to convert everyone to sales. That's why they're spending the money. But if you see some ad sets that are, let's just say like you have the video engagement that leads to the, lead magnet that leads to the sale offer, that video engagement one, and that the middle one there where you're going to retarget the engagement with the leads. I mean, we touched on this earlier, but I just want to reiterate it. That video maybe needs to try to get them to act in a way that you get their email address, because you might, depending on your traffic, you could, one other thing would be to start segmenting your campaigns by device type. Can you just have separate mobile versus desktop? Because then the stuff that's still working on desktop isn't affected. You can maybe spend more in desktop, although most of the traffic's mobile's the problem.
Well, what I find in my experience is the problem when they are combined together. So at an ad set level where it includes mobile and desktop traffic, in my experience, I find happens is that desktop just gets no airtime. Like it doesn't get any budget at all because all the budget is completely consumed by mobile. And actually we will create 2 separate ad sets, one for mobile, one for desktop, purely that the desktop has a chance to get some budget. Otherwise, it just doesn't even get any budget. So perhaps that's sort of another business case for doing that as well.
Yeah. And then, so then your mobile, where you're relying on the engagement to move it over, once you see the impact, you need to start, I don't know, begging for the email. I'm not good with ad hooks and copy. I'm a data person, so I don't know what specific script to say. That's your job. not
All,
mine.
all the advertisers' job. And obviously, as a good segue, Wicked Reports would also help attributing the success of your ads as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
We start with the conversions and look back. So we pull from your real sales and only consider those as sales conversions, not a pixel. So we look back from your real sales and look across all your ad platforms and email and organic and just give credit where credit's due. And the same thing for leads. So we see a lead come in, we integrate with the CRM and determine, is it a new lead or an existing lead? And then we'll hold on to that credit and then give lifetime value back to it. So when you're trying to find cold traffic sources that found new leads that became high value customers, we know which click made that lead show up in your Klaviyo or Active Campaign or HubSpot, for example, or we got a bunch of those CRMs we're integrated with.
Yeah.
And then we'll connect it to whatever Shopify or WooCommerce Revenue or whatever system you're using.
And so your software doesn't rely on that phone number, the Apple,
No.
whatever you called it.
Yeah, IDFA. Yeah, we don't use phone number lookup, and we don't track people across websites. We only track it for the advertiser, specifically for their use. And we're only click-based tracking. So it's incoming legal clicks that are tracked, only used for that advertiser's purpose. And then we're GDPR and CCPA compliant. So if one of our customers wants to be forgotten, we can anonymize them or hide them from view or whatever, while not messing up your data.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Well, is there anything else that we have not covered that you think is important for our listeners who are running traffic to know about with this Apple iOS update?
I think it's just important to realize that all those good leads and sales are still in are still in Facebook. They're just going to be only the people with the data edge are the ones that are going to be able to grab them on the mobile. So it behooves everyone to act on. Then the sky isn't falling. It's just there's chaos, and that means opportunity.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom in this uncharted territory that we're entering. Much really is like a representative of the PPC landscape. Anyway, it's change is the only constant, I say to people, and this is no different. So, where can people find out more about you and your software?
WickedReports.com.
Too easy. Thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your evening. It is in the United States.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you taking time out of your precious evening and sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much.
It's great coming on. Thanks for having me.